I moved
Okay,
my
we're
monitor.
recording now.
Okay.
So I have with me Jaime Simpson, who is the COO of NetStandard. And Jaime and I recently met, and we were just having a conversation about um, employees and leaders and people returning to the office, what that looks like for the near future. You'll recall that I had a conversation with Justin Hoover recently that was talking about checking on people and seeing, are they good? And Jaime and I were talking about that, and she just had what I thought was a really original, introspective thought that I wanted to share with everyone. So this idea of third quarter and what that means, Jaime, help me kind of walk through that and share what your point was there.
Sure. We found that after a couple of months, we were seeing cycles in our team of different people sort of going through phases during quarantine of, kind of being nervous at first and then kind of yeah, I've got this. And then they'd hit a little bit of a funk. And as I was talking to some other leaders and doing some research, somebody brought up this term, the third quarter phenomenon. And what it stems from is when the space program was trying to decide how long astronauts could survive in no gravity or in space, they thought it was a physical problem that would keep them from succeeding. But it turned out that there's this mental phenomenon that people go through where they cycle through these stages at a normal pace. In Antarctica, people that go to Antarctica see that, and people that go to battle sometimes see that. And what they divide it into, in those situations, you know exactly how long you're going to be somewhere. So I'm going to Antarctica for a year. So when you're 2/3 of the way through your year, typically that's when you start into this funk. And so scientists and psychologists have explored different ways around it, but the truth is that most people go through it whether you're prepared for it or not. So with the quarantine, the way it sort of applied for us is that first phase, sort of the panic and everybody grabbing toilet paper and shortages in the grocery store was all sort of this means to control and a confused response. And at work, that looked like people trying to figure out where to work, trying to figure out work-life balance. Am I working too much? Am I working too little? Do I have the things I need for daily life? So that was sort of the first phase. The second phase was sort of a honeymoon phase. Everybody kind of gets used to it. People are making sourdough and gosh, isn't this great? And then you kind of hit this isolation is the word that scientists characterize it with. And so that's the point where we saw some of our employees demonstrating sort of listlessness or lack of engagement, or they'd kind of check out on things they wouldn't normally check out on. And
Zoom call fatigue.
Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah.
Interpersonal conflict increases. When I read that, it made me think a little bit about when I used to be a counselor at a youth camp, and we would always joke that like Wednesday night of the week was the week all the girls were crying. Like Wednesday night was cry night, and it kind of ties to this.
Fits right in, yeah.
Right, because it's about you're about 2/3 of the way done, and so we met with our team, and at one of our all company meetings, I just laid this out because all of our engineers, they're relatively scientific type of guys. And so I think it helped our team to appreciate that this is a normal process for people to cycle through these phases. But the difficulty with quarantine and with COVID is that there was really no defined end in sight, which meant that everybody's cycling through that at a little bit different time based on when you perceive that things are going to be over. I can survive this for so long, and then I cross the finish line. And because there's no discernible finish line, all of our employees are kind of cycling through these phases at any one time. And so we've got to figure out ways to help them manage that load, but still be productive in the work environment. So that's something that I just struck me as being exactly what our teams were feeling. And it really helped the team to be aware and just talk about those feelings. And let them know that it's a safe place to be able to say, hey, I need an afternoon to just get my head on straight, or
Yeah.
I'm going to come into work at 8:30 instead of 8 because I'm going to run in the morning, or, whatever they want to do. But
Well, and it
making sure
seems
they take
that
care of
you
themselves.
don't necessarily need a formal program around it and all of that. You need the recognition of it, which is your point of having the all-employee meeting and explaining this kind of phenomenon and how it relates from the space program to you. And then just being available to have those conversations with people and available for them to kind of figure out what they need specific to their situation. You don't necessarily have to plug them into some very formal program and all of that. It's really the way you've described it to me is kind of a recognition of it, and then an awareness and the ability for people to navigate through it at their own speed.
Yeah. And one of the big things we talk about is, there's no shame. We're not shaming people for feeling one way or another. It's not our job to decide how our team should feel about their circumstances. And we really encourage, I think our managers are really important in that role, because they've got to understand that, however their team is feeling, we've got to hear that and respond to that. And the right answer, like you're saying, is different for different people. What relaxes me may be very different than what relaxes you. And so some of our guys will work more hours than they should because they feel a burden for what is not getting done. And those are the guys you say, okay, you need to set a start and end time. You need a schedule for your day so that everything works the right way. And others have the opposite problem. So that, okay, you need to set a schedule because I need you to be at your desk some.
Yeah.
I need you to do some regular stuff.
One of the solutions I heard was just turning off your laptop. We all just close our laptop and we know we're going to open it. The old days of it taking 10 minutes to boot up are kind of behind us, but it does take a little bit longer when you shut it all the way down versus, and powering it back up. And so, and signing on and all that. And so one of the things I heard was just to turn your computer off when you say, I'm going to be done for the day. And then there's just that little piece that pushes you away from, I need to go check something real quick. Well, it takes 2 minutes to boot up. And you don't think through all that, but your mind is kind of working that way. And maybe it keeps you from jumping back on for another, the intention of checking one thing turns into 45 minutes. And there you are again, doing it all over again. So that was just one of the things I heard to help keep people that struggle with that walking away from it, to help them overcome that.
I think too, if if you're lucky enough to have room for a designated workspace, that helps people. When I used to work from home full time before this, I had an office, and then when I was in the office, I was focused. And when I was out of that room, I could do home life. I think that helps, but we have several employees that don't have that kind of setup at home. So that's different. I've encouraged people, when people take time off, I like to encourage them to turn their notifications off on their phone. So it doesn't hound them into jumping into work email, or, when you're off, you're off. And we really try to respect that. So
that's great.
There's lots of tricks.
Like I said, the first time we met and you brought this concept up, it was just very intriguing to me, because so many people are focused on this area of how we help people navigate this. And I thought it was great. And I know that a lot of people are going to love hearing about it, just to help them make sense of, you've recognized it, and you've done the work to understand that you need to get in front of your folks and check in on them and say, how are you doing? And so I know a lot of others will benefit from that. So thanks so much for taking a few minutes to walk through it again.
Great. Well, thanks for asking.
You bet.